Okay, so online editions. How does it work? I'm gonna explain basically how online editions work just really quickly in this video. So let's host a server. So you might actually notice that my max player is higher than the usual limits. The limits is usually 12, but I can go way above 12. And that's just because that's just one of the things that the mod allows you to do, so you can actually set your max limit to be higher than usual. You know, if you ever run into that situation where there's more than 12 people in the lobby, well, now you can actually circumvent that. Alright, so let me set my server to private, set it to whatever password, I don't care, and start up the pace breaker level as I talk about some of the other things that you can do. So if you have the mod configuration manager installed, then you can go into mod settings and mess with a lot of the online edition stuff just from within the game. So you can do things like disable the car audio of other people's cars in multiplayer if that either is bothering you, or you can also do that if your game is lagging a bit, and this is one of the things that you can do to maybe improve the performance a little bit. Same thing with multiplayer kill grid rendering. You can make it so the kill grid doesn't render for every single car. It'll only render for your car, which can be good if you're in a server with there's a lot of people, and you know the kill grid can get really bright when there's a lot of cars close to the kill grid at once. And it can also help with performance a bit, because that does actually lag the game a little bit if there's like 8 cars near a kill grid at the same time. It hurts the performance quite a bit. And you can also disable the timeout entirely, so the timeout won't even start if there's only one player left. So, you know, that can be good if you want stuff like that. I will explain these three in a bit. I do also just wanted to showcase the fact that you can turn off the chat. So you see this chat right here? Well, if you go into the settings and turn this on, I can't see the chat anymore. It's not there. I can't even... Like, I can bring it up, technically, but I can't see it. So, you know, if you need to turn it off for some reason, well, now you can. And let me just bring the chat back up, because I'm going to need to see it later. Cool. So, there we go, we're back here. So, you can also hide the player names of other players, so if you've ever run into that situation where it's hard to see where you're going because everybody's player names are above each other, well, you can actually turn that off. Just kind of keep in mind that you won't be able to know who's next to you anymore once you've memorized what color they are, but yeah. You can also lower the glow brightness, like the outline brightness of other people's cars. You could lower that if that's bothering you. And for another performance thing that you can adjust the max level of detail that a car has. So the game will, like, you know, give more detail to a car the closer it is to your camera. But you could set it to very far, so you can essentially tell the game to render the car as if it's very far away, no matter how close it is to your camera. The type of things this does is like, it might turn off like the wheel spinning in the car, or it might have like a slightly lower poly model than what it would use if it was close to you. It actually says in the little description down there that if you set it to spec, it turns off every animation of the car. So, you know, like the thruster animation, the wing animation, none of that will turn on. So this is good if you're just lagging with a lot of people in the server. That can actually help. And finally, you can adjust the time limit. So if I set the time limit to like 3:15, right? So when there's only one player left, it's going to say 3:15. But there's actually extra commands that are included with this mod. So if I were to type in timeout, well, now the countdown has started. And you might actually notice that, you know, there's 315 seconds left. So you can see on the car, it's counting down those 315 seconds. I got 5 minutes left right now. And if you ever want to, turn off the countdown, if it started by accident, or you might realize that a player might not make it to the end and you want to make sure they can finish, then you can type in /cancel timeout. And now the timeout is gone. You notice that it's not counting down from 5 minutes. We've been in the level for, well, 4 minutes and 20 seconds at this point, and it's counting up from there. So you can do that with this mod, because there's a bunch of extra commands. Alright, so now let me go over the 3 big things that you can turn on and off. So enable cheats, enable collision, and enable online events. These are big ones. Whenever you turn this on, you can't even upload anything to the leaderboards anymore. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're trying to set times on the workshop. You probably don't want any of these on, because it's going to turn it off. Because the game is going to recognize that the car is acting differently than what it should. So whenever you enable cheats or collisions, it's going to append a suffix to the end of your name to let people know that you have that on. So if I enable collisions right now, and I type in something, or if I die, you're going to see the like collision parentheses kind of attached to your name there, so people know that you have that on. This is just to prevent any kind of confusion. If you have monster truck enabled in multiplayer, people are going to see your car floating a little higher than what it should be at, so it might confuse people. So it would say, cheating in parentheses if you have that on. But I only have collisions on, so it's only going to say collisions. And as you might guess, this will allow other players' cars to collide into you in multiplayer. Just keep in mind that these collisions are client-side only, so you can't run into other people and collide into them. They can only collide into you, if that makes any sense. And finally, another big one. This one actually breaks levels all the time. So online events. This only works if you have collisions on. But essentially, if there was another car in this level, right? In Pacebreaker, every single time you collect one of these collectibles up here, it makes the car slightly faster. So since I have online events on, somebody else could fly into this collectible, and that would go off for me even though I wasn't the one who collected it. So that's what online events would do. It makes it so every single event trigger is now a multiplayer event trigger, essentially. And as you might imagine, this could break a lot of levels, especially ones that are like keeping track of where the car is at any given point in time. That would break the level, because now the level suddenly has to keep track of multiple car positions, and you can't do that. At the very least, I don't know of a way you could do that. But yeah, if you want to kind of experience how it feels to play any level with like local multiplayer, then you could have online collisions and online events on, and that would kind of make it seem like you're playing it in local multiplayer, even though you're not. Just, yeah, keep in mind, some levels do just straight up break when this happens, or you might get soft locked. Like, if you've ever played Monument, there's a certain point where the walls close in behind you, so anybody who gets there before you would essentially lock you out from completing the level. So, yeah, so, like, stuff like that can happen, so just keep that in mind. And that's basically it for online editions. It just gives you a bunch of things that you can mess with, either for performance or for adjusting your multiplayer experience a little bit. There's a bunch of other commands, like if I type in /help, it actually lists every single command that's in the mod. And yeah, you can even do things like change your server from a private server to a public one. Or you can change it from public to private, and even set your password just from those commands alone. There's a bunch of other stuff as well, but I'm not really going to go into it. You can check the description of the mod if you want to, get an idea of everything that it does. And yeah, that's online editions. Enjoy. Enjoy the more things that you can do with the multiplayer experience. I'm gonna go like eat chips or something.